Hey folks, welcome back to Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin. We're here in the Cardinal Tower, still in the Forest of Fallen Giants, and in the last episode, among many other things, we defeated our first real boss, the last giant. And in doing so, we acquired the Soldier Key, which opens Soldier's Door in the Forest of Giants, and in fact, multiple doors. Many doors, 4 doors if I remember right. And today we are going to be showing off what lies beyond each of those 4 doors. The first one is this one. We kind of broke it open already, but if you didn't figure out the brute force method of getting through there, the Soldier's Key would unlock that and give you the prizes within. Nice little bit of the game tantalizing you with something. And then there are 3 other paths. 2 of them are pretty short, and one of them is actually pretty significant. So I'm going to save the significant one for last, and depending on how long it takes to do the first 2, I may save it for the next episode. Who knows? Alright, so the first one we want to go to is back through here, past where we fought the last giant. Now, since we've rested at the bonfire, remember that all of these enemies will have respawned. And some of them may want to ambush you. Don't let them. Hey! Oh, both of these guys have shields. That's going to mess with me. I am awful against shields, is what I've learned in the course of recording this series. There we go, that's one, and we can probably backstab this one. Come on, do you think? Boo. Oh man, these spear guys also. Spears and shields. I'm terrible. There we go. Just needed to hit them during their wind up there to stagger them. Okay, that was a little embarrassing, but we made it through. So the first door, and actually a very important door if you are probably a first timer, new to the game. That's what I was trying to say. And even if you're a veteran of the game, you may want to go on this path for the sake of expediency. As you'll see in just a bit. We're introduced to a new kind of enemy here. These are, I believe, royal swordsmen, as opposed to royal soldiers. Their weapons fell through the floor, but they have big weapons. They have different armor. They don't really throw anything new at you that you haven't seen. Generally, they come at you in large numbers. 2 here, and many, many more later on. Can't go through there. You can see there was quite a bit of damage done there. And we make our way up to the top here. Hey there. Yeah, so very generous tells on their attacks. Never really any concern about where they're coming from. No, probably should have shown this message because it tells why I was being so reserved there. There is an archer right there. Let's get him. Come on, buddy. Hey. Didn't mean to cross-counter him, but it looked pretty cool. Getting a lot of these helms that are just very ugly. Alright, so let's grab this item here. We are now up top of the fortress, right next to where those giant statues were that we were looking at for so very, very long. And you may notice A lot of bloodstains, a lot of messages. There's a boss. Try parrying. Decent advice, very hard to pull off. Can I read this? I don't know if I can read this. No. A lot of people seem to have trouble with Archer. So what you'll find here is a lot of messages usually warning you about the boss that you encounter in here, but there's no boss in here. Now, why might that be? Gosh, that is a gorgeous view ahead. So you may remember a couple episodes back, I fought a little fellow named the Pursuer, and I mentioned that I was fighting him early. If you fight him in that location down there, on the right by the kind of ramshackle village barracks area, you won't fight him when you normally fight him. And this is where you normally fight him. You can see it looks very much like an arena. You've got an entrance and an exit. You've got a lot of bloodstains. And you've even got a place where you can roll off into the abyss. Most people will probably fight the Pursuer here. And if you fight him here, he gets a cool, badass entry cutscene and health bar and everything. And you also have access to ballistas. We've seen these earlier, and these can be used to your advantage. If you somehow manage to lure the Pursuer in front of a ballista long enough to activate it and set it off, that will cause a ton of damage to him. I want to say at least half his health bar if you get off a good shot, maybe more. The downside, however, is that trying to line up the ballista leaves you open for quite a while for him to attack, and if he attacks, he can just straight up destroy these things. You can't destroy him, which is good, I guess. By and large, trying to reliably get off a ballista requires you learning very particular skills. What I see speedrunners do, and speedrunners do this. They'll run in, they'll stand at a particular place, maybe it's here, I don't know, and then they will parry. They'll parry the Pursuer, which requires very dedicated timing. And then while the Pursuer is recovering, they will run over and activate the ballista, and usually that will get in some pretty good hits. Alternatively, you can summon. You can summon some folks out here, bring them in, and they can act as decoys. Try to keep the Pursuer in the line of fire while you activate, or maybe you can be the decoy if you have a death wish. I've seen that work once, but usually you just end up hitting your co-op partner, and then you're sad, and they're sad, and it's bad news for everybody. This, like I mentioned, when I encountered the Pursuer the first time, can be either a very easy or very hard boss fight for me, depending on how long I've gone without taking a break. You also get a nice look at the statues, rocks out there, and we see what happened to the head of that statue over there. Somehow got knocked off and rolled all the way over here and broke in half. Which is cool as hell. And the first time I played, and first couple times, I didn't consciously realize that this was a head. I just okay, yeah, we got some rocks, alright, cool, yep. But it does a very cool thing where it makes the entrance something other than just a regular doorway, which I really like. Anyway, that's a lot of talking about an empty boss arena. So let's move forward. Gosh, I just looks so pretty. So pretty. Over there we can see another royal soldier attacking a giant tree. And this time, the first time you encounter a giant tree, you might be like, oh, that's a weird looking tree. But now we've seen the last giant. And you can make that visual connection of, oh, that's a giant that is also a tree. So it's a nice way of, hey, it's a nice way of introducing the concept of the giant tree and then bringing it back with more context so you understand what's going on. Item required ahead. And that's a highly rated message. There might be more to this tree than meets the eye. But nothing we can do right now. Okay. Over here, we have a bird's nest. Now, I'm not going to show off the entirety of this bird's nest right now, but I will explain how it works. So you may remember that when the pursuer comes into the arena, and you'll definitely remember if you fight him over and over in this arena by losing a lot, like I often do. Pursuer flies in on an eagle. He is carried by an eagle and dropped down. And this, I believe, is the nest of that eagle. And it will call to mind for Dark Souls veterans the method of transportation between Firelink Shrine and the Undead Asylum in Dark Souls 1. You can curl into a ball and get transported via bird to another location. I'm not going to do that now because it leads to another location that I want to tackle in a couple episodes' time. Not too far off, but in a couple episodes. And it actually leads to a part of the area that you wouldn't otherwise be able to access, as far as I'm aware. It's a bit of a weird area. We will come back to this. We will definitely come back to this when we are showing off that area in its entirety. But for now, we'll leave it. And drop down here for a nice little loot back. But before you go roll happy, don't forget to grab this stuff. An entire Dranglaic set. Sword, shield, mail, gauntlets, and leggings. No helm, though. So this is definitely something worth checking out for lore purposes. Let's check out the sword first. Here we go. Great Sword of Drummond, Royal Army Captain. An old and unadorned sword, perhaps, but the pride and joy of this venerable captain. An heirloom passed from grandfather to father, and then from father to son. Drummond, and those before him, used this sword to repel those who would threaten their great land. So Dranglaic sword is it's a pretty decent weapon. It's heavy is the big thing. That's what you'll notice about a lot of the Dranglaic set, is that it is very heavy. Like my scimitar there is 1.5 units of weight, and my short sword is 2 units. Dranglaic sword is 9 units. That is very, very heavy, and you can see equipping it would increase my equip burden by 20% just from that one weapon. Similar story for the Dranglaic shield. Captain Drummond's shield, even with its embossing terribly worn, this shield exudes pride and authority. And the rest of the description is the same, I think. I've already forgotten what the first one was. Held this shield when facing those who would threaten their great lands. Slightly different. So what I get mainly from this set, and this appears to be the corpse of Captain Drummond that we just looted, is, first off, he was a captain like his father before him and his father before him, and so there's this idea of lineage and ancestry and family as it pertains to identity. This family very, very proud of being captains, of being high-ranking army officials in the Dranglaic army. So much so that they are expected to become captains, any male born into this family, apparently, or at least one male. We don't know if they're brothers, but there's certainly a family expectation, and so just the circumstances of your birth are imprinted into your identity before you are even born. Which is definitely a thing that happens in real life, sometimes in more insidious ways than this. But there are definitely ways that the circumstances of your birth determine the person you become. And then there's also the little bit here early in the description about the embossing being terribly worn. The shield exudes pride and authority. That calls to mind for me kind of the destruction of these kingdoms and the gradual erasure of their greatness, and kind of similar to the Ozymandias thing that I was talking about with the statues over there. But here, the pride and authority actually comes through despite the shield being worn down, despite kind of the emblems, the distinctive features being gradually eroded. Some inherent quality of it manages to persevere, and I think that's really hopeful. It's a hopeful spin on that idea. Okay, let's check out the armor real quick. I don't think it has anything terribly different. Yeah, Drummond's ancestors have served Drangleic for generations, principally as defenders of the Great Fort, but Drummond is the last of this proud line. And I believe all of these are similar story. All right, that's a lot of talking about Captain Drummond. Let's see, can I get down there without attracting the attention of those two fine folks? So I'd really just like to move on and not get into any combat, but I think he's gonna notice me. You coming out for bed? I think we're... Nope, there we go. Alright, but the old ironclad ain't coming. Alright, that was one path. And that path is a lot longer if you take the bird nest off to another area. Let's get rid of this guy. And the second path we're taking... Another helm. Jesus. Drop your shirt or something. Second path we're taking, over here. This is a much shorter path, and I have less to say about it. So, if you're sick of me talking about lore, get out now while you still can. In here we have a Ring of Restoration and a couple torches. Ring of Restoration is an okay ring. I'm going to equip it, but it's not super great. It gradually restores HP. It's a protective ring passed down in the House Osteria. In the sacred land of Lindelt, this ring symbolized prosperity and longevity for the great House Osteria. But the ring is fragile and breaks easily, as if it hates being taken for granted. I'm not super familiar with the House Osteria or Lindelt. I'm going to try to keep my eyes open for mention of them later on in the game. But off the top of my head, I don't know a whole lot about them. I am going to equip it. It very slowly restores HP, just on its own. If you watch the health bar carefully, you can see it ticking up pixel by pixel. If you're not doing anything important, it could be a nice way to regain lost health, but it's not gonna get you out of a bind. And if you're going just straight from encounter to encounter, then it's really not going to be worth it. But if you sit around talking about lore a lot like I do, it could be useful. Alright, so over here... Yeah, we'll get to you, don't worry. Over here we have another chest. There's an item over there, don't forget about that. Another amber herb for you spellcasters out there. And a grand lance. This is another big-ass weapon. 12 units of weight. Golly gee willikers. Oh, I just forgot. I forgot to point something out about the Drangleic shield. This is your first 100% physical block shield. It's very heavy, but if you want 100% physical block, this is your first opportunity. Good investment if you're into defensive playing. As we were saying about the Grand Lance, a lance fashioned from rare gay steel? I don't know if it's gay steel or guy steel or J steel. I don't know, I'm going to say gay steel to promote the gay agenda. Designed for high-ranking Drenlaic knights, hence the decorative design. Gay steel equipment is of the finest make, but the gay steel is so rare that very few of these weapons were actually used in combat. So not a whole lot there for me to chomp on, but the Grand Lance is pretty good at breaking down enemies' poise, and it's pretty powerful. Because of that, it has pretty high stat investment. But this was in the original Dark Souls 2 release, a weapon you came on later, but they made it available earlier here to many people's pleasure. Then over here, we have what looks like a doorway, and someone who's very fancily dressed. Look at that. That is much nicer armor than any of the armor we've seen in here thus far. This is another pathway, but we cannot access it right now. We need a certain item that we'll get long time from now. So long that you may even forget about it. May forget about this door by the time we can open it. This guy defends it. Woo! We need to produce the symbol of the king. And yeah, he's stuck to that door like glue. We could defeat him right now if we wanted. I believe he respawns. He doesn't drop anything nice, and the souls aren't that great. So I'd say hold off. Don't need to worry about him right now. We'll come back in a long time. Hey. He's fun to fight, though, if you like. He's one of them stored and board types. And based on the timing of this episode, I think I'm going to save our last path, this path over here, for the next episode. Like I said, it is the longest of the 3 paths that we're taking. So I'm gonna hold off. I'm gonna return to the bonfire, not rest at it, but end the episode here. I know last episode ended up being like 46 minutes or something. I want to avoid that. I'd like episodes to be in the kind of 20-minute range, so we're going to call it good here. So, for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.